Okay, good. Hi, everyone. I can start now, Glenn?
You sure can.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Christine Viana, founder and CEO of Noah Real Estate. I created my agency in 2004, so now almost 16 years ago. We are specialized in Brussels residential real estate, but also a bit of activity in retail and offices, and we also do property management. So we are selling, we are letting properties, and we also do some property management. We do give a lot of advice to buyers, to investors, to building promoters, in order to help them realize their real estate dreams and projects. Today we have a team of almost 15 persons here, and we are renowned for our expertise on the markets and a friendly and human approach. In 2021, we have very special plans with our company. We will merge with a very large real estate group in Belgium, and they're called De Waele Real Estate. They are originally from the Flanders, and we will build together a common structure in Brussels to even better serve our clients. So today we will go through a few topics: how to find the right property in a digital world, new ways of living that we see in Brussels, new ways of investing, and we can also take a look at some new neighborhoods in Brussels. Throughout these different topics, we can also look at the impact of COVID if you want to, and I will be happy to answer your questions after this small presentation. And I invite Glenn to keep the time for me. So if I have to hurry up, please give me a sign. So this evening, I will speak a lot about the trends that we see in our daily practice of residential real estate in Brussels, because I think our fellow speakers talk more about the legal aspects and the fiscal aspects. So we will really speak about what we see in the market today. Next slide, please. When I was looking for a property like 20 years ago already, the market looked completely different. I bought the Bulletin, which was a nice Expat magazine, the Vlan, and I subscribed with different real estate agents. I received listings by post even from agents, and I did visit a lot of properties. At the time, we didn't have any pictures even for the ads. There were no email listings. There was no website even. I think today we are in a completely different period where the landscape is completely changed. So we can go to the next slide again. So indeed, how to find the right property now, because in Belgium, we do not have a central listing of properties like you could find it in other countries. So your property you're looking for can be everywhere, anywhere. So it might be a bit difficult to find the right property in Belgium because you can find it on the internet with different real estate agents. You can find it on social media. You can still find properties in the written press. You can subscribe with real estate agents. You will receive a lot of emailings. You will be invited to open houses, to open days for new projects, etc. Mostly people still use portal websites like IMWeb in Belgium and in Brussels. And Google is used more and more as well today as well. Next slide. The downside of digitalization, we have today all these modern ways of communicating, but one has to be aware of the pitfalls. As I said, there's no central listing for real estate, so the right property can be listed anywhere. So it could be a real estate agency, it could be at a notary, it could be an owner himself, and it can be listed on different channels. Um, by digitalizing, we do lose human contact. Residential real estate is not only about objective criteria, like the number of bedrooms, the budget, bathrooms, but it's definitely about finding the right property for the right person. So it's emotions, taste, cultures are involved and are very important in this work. Impossible to get the real feeling for property when you're sitting behind your computer. Today also the legal framework became more important and more complicated, so a good advice is really important, and I think that's what the notary told you as well. We also feel that clients are often lost. They read a lot on internet, and in a way they think they know, they think they understand, but the information is not always correct, not always accurate, and is not always transparent. Moreover, internet use today is monitored, and it learns us as a real estate agent a lot about the customer behavior. So as a result, real estate agents are taking advantage of this. So we use home staging, nice pictures, movies, 3Ds. So how to find indeed the right property again? My advice, do things in the right order. Reflect well beforehand, get professional advice, get your financial situation right, check before you start house hunting. Think about your personal situation and make a wish list. And adapt your wish list along you go. Finding a property, it's like finding the right person in your life. The perfect match is sometimes a bit difficult or even impossible to find. So if you're looking at real estate websites, be aware they're not always accurate, and definitely the websites that you might use for home valuing. So these estimates that you can find, they're often wrong. Because they are calculated based on the sales around the property in the area, and they do not always take into account the finishes of the property, so it's not always comparable. So do your homework well. Even also on the technical side, it might be important or interesting to get an expert in that comes along with you to value the property, or to check the hidden defaults of a property. So that's what I mean by a home inspection and a maintenance check. Also important, define for yourself what's a good neighborhood, because a good neighborhood, it can be one thing for a friend of yours, but it might not be the same thing for you, because you're in a different situation as to mobility, where are your kids going to school, if you have kids, etc. We can go to the next slide. We will look shortly into new ways of living. Today, creativity is needed to handle the increasing cost of land, property, building materials, energy, etc. So we will see new ways of living appearing, sometimes new ways that we've seen already in other countries and that are now only implemented in Belgium. Sometimes we're a bit late. On the other hand, I also believe people are looking today for more human contact, definitely in big cities where everybody is always in a rush, and definitely today with COVID, people are sometimes quite alone in their apartment. So they're looking for ways to connect with other people. We can go to the next slide. One of the examples is co-housing, so people living together to share facilities and indeed reduce the costs. We sometimes see it on a very small scale, like houses that are rented by 3 to 4 to 5 people living together in the same house. But we do have already bigger projects in Brussels as well. This is a picture of a project in Woluwe called The Horizon. It's a property owner who built this or renovated this building really with the idea to create co-housing on a larger scale, which is quite nice because they have nice shared facilities. You can see there the fitness room. They have like a cinema room together. They have a really nice terrace overlooking the city. So I think they have quite a good time together in that building. We see this trend in rentals, but also in the sales. Another trend, higher density. So we go higher. So we tend to build now some towers in Brussels. We have a few of them. This is an example next to the canal. It's the Upside Tower. But we have a few others, but smaller ones. The reason that we build higher is that because of the fact that the price of land becomes more expensive, so we need less land and build, then we can build more. But also we see that the apartments or the properties become smaller, so the surface becomes smaller, but often more efficient. On the other hand, if we do that, I think we need to be aware that we need to have good accommodation in and outside the project. So we need green gardens, parks around, common playrooms sometimes, like we have in co-housing. Yeah, this is just another example of a small tower in Brussels. It's called Expat. It's in Molenbeek. And that's an example of a project where there's actually a combination of social housing, offices, schools, there's a crèche, and regular apartments. We can go to the next one. Another way of building or living in Brussels is the conversion of office buildings into residential properties. This is an example of a building, again in Woluwe. That's an area where we had a lot of office spaces, office buildings empty, and building promoters started to buy them to reconvert them into residential properties. It's quite a specific way of doing things again, because often these areas are not very sexy. They miss some infrastructure, they miss shopping facilities. So if we do that, this reconversion of office buildings into residential properties, we need to be really aware of the fact that the area around it needs to follow as well. So the building promoter or the commune needs to invest in the infrastructure, in possibilities to get new shops around. So in order to make it a cozy, a lively, or even a trendy neighborhood, which was definitely not the case before. So that can take quite a lot of time. We can go to the next. Today, green is definitely the message. People are more aware today of energy consumption as the cost is increasing, obviously. And building permits that are delivered today in Brussels, they oblige the promoter to build passive buildings. The choice of materials is important. So green and renewable energy. We need to provide spaces for electric cars. We need to provide space for bicycle storage. The example we see here, it's a project in Forêt, Vorst. It's a project Vucurwaar. Again, quite a special kind of development where we had a combination of social housing again and properties sold on the regular market. It offers a really great common garden in the middle, but it's actually two buildings, one on the street side and one at the back. And in the middle, you will find really a very nice common garden with some vegetable gardens and a playground for the children, and which creates really a very nice atmosphere in this in this project. People spend a lot of time together outside in the garden, and we can see that people connect again with each other in this kind of project. We can go to the next. Today we see also that we have more rentals than before, and that's often linked to the fact that we're in a big city, but also I think it has become more difficult for a lot of people to buy property, so the access to property becomes more difficult because the loan might be a bit more difficult to obtain, and prices of properties become higher. What we also see is that we get new types of families, so family structures do change. The divorce rate is unfortunately still quite high, and so we get new families coming in and with changing needs. So often they go first by renting a property. Increasing mobility, of course, all the expats know what I mean. People change jobs and sometimes city or countries, although today with the COVID pandemic, we see that a little bit less. And companies tend to send people all over the world, and that makes that obviously we do have a lot of rentals in Brussels. We can go to the next slide. Our home, different functions and different new needs. This is a slide I've been using for a few years already, but I think it has become very, very actual today with the COVID pandemic. Indeed, today our home needs to combine different functions and needs to respond to what we need today, because people live at home, definitely, but today they work at home, but even much more than before. They shop at home, so we do everything at home. So that means that our property needs to be equipped for as well. So developers need to take that into account and combine or try to combine all these functions, not always in the property itself, but also in the common parts of a building, for example. What we see here on the picture is an example of the Bring Me box. That's a system where you can have your shopping delivered at the entrance of the building, and it works with digital codes. Well, now today everybody is at home, I think, so that's not a big deal any longer. But what's nice, and that's what we see today, buildings where we have sport facilities in the building, they're quite successful today. And also buildings where they have large terraces are quite successful today. We see buildings also with extra services, offering extra services because there's some kind of a housekeeper downstairs, and this housekeeper takes care of the dry cleaning, taxi calling, takeaway for food, etc. We can go to the next slide. New ways of investing. I'm not sure if there are people here in the room that are very interested in investing in real estate, but we'll go through it quickly. It's true that investing in real estate, it can be quite interesting, but it's a quite stable investment on the long term. The idea is to buy a piece of real estate and obviously rent it out, so you get an income and that's your return. and you gain normally value on the long term. A disadvantage is that a lot of people think like that. So a lot of people invest in real estate. So at a certain point in time, we might run the risk to have too much available properties on the rental market. Also, some companies tend to present real estate as a piece of paper, and they just will show you some Excel spreadsheets with a return on investment, but it's only on paper, so we're never sure if it's the reality at the end of the story. So what we try to do is to create awareness as to what people buy and where they buy, and it's also a good idea to, if you can, to diversify. We can go on. Next one already. Yes, a few trends. Some people today, they invest also in student homes. We see developments in the city of Brussels with student homes, and people buy them as an investment. Same thing, you can even buy hotel rooms as an investment. This is an example of a quite nice project in the city center of Brussels of student homes. We're not always in favor of this type of investment, because the thing is that it's really qualified as a student home or as a hotel room. So if you would like to use it afterwards for something else, like a classic apartment, often it's not possible to turn it into something else. So the value on the long run might be more difficult. Next slide, please. Social housing. What we see in Belgium is that a lot of our investors are investing in social housing. I also already showed you a picture of this project before. It's Expat in Molenbeek. There, quite a lot of investors bought apartments to rent it out via a social housing agency. So social housing agencies are specific agencies, and they only deal with social housing, and that might be quite an interesting deal for an investor, because they can buy at lower VAT rates than on the regular market. So it might have some interesting fiscal aspects to buy properties to then put them on the social housing markets. Next one, that's a slide that I added because I often get questions from property owners in Brussels. There's a new legislation for rental contracts in Brussels since January 2018. That's important information for property owners today, because it even applies to rental contracts that were signed before 2018. So it has a retroactive impact on rental contracts. We can go to the next slide. New neighborhoods in Brussels. We can turn to the next slide already. Living near the water, a trend. I think it's a trend in all big cities, in all countries, I would say. But it was not at all in Belgium or in Brussels. More specifically, we have this canal in Brussels, and in a way it was not a very nice area to live in. It's only the last, I would say, 5 years that we can see a good evolution in that area. We get a mixity of functions there, so a lot of different types of activities going on. But residential real estate is really moving on there, and we can see things moving there now. We can go to the next slide. So this is the canal area. It's what's very important in the canal area today. It's the development of the Tour and Taxi site. Tour and Taxi, it's really an iconic site for Brussels. I think it's a very large development and combination of residential real estate, but also offices, retail, and with quite a lot of impressive historic buildings. The fact that Tour and Taxi is developing well today makes that the other developments around it are influenced by that, and they're evolving well thanks to Tour and Taxi. So it's really an area you can look at. We also have some, yeah, you can go to the next slide here, it's good. We get some new museums there as well, like the Museum for Modern Art and the Centre Pompidou will come there as well. So we can see that the city of Brussels is investing in that area as well. There will come, normally they will develop 2 new parks in the area as well. There's a new bridge over the canal. They're building it right now, actually. So in a short period, we will see a nice evolution there. We can go to the next slide. Up to the north, so that's the other side of the canal. That's the communes like Ganshoorn, Jette, Koekelberg, often not well known by people, definitely the people living on the other side. But we can see that the market is evolving there as well. So you see on the picture here or on the map, the red little, the small buildings, you can see the red small buildings. These are all the new developments along the canal. The part on the right side is the communes like Ixelles, Uccle, the Woluwe's, etc. And the side on the left side, that's what we call north, but actually it's more northwest than only north. The building is Gaston, that's a new development in Jette, in Jet. Obviously prices on that side of Brussels are lower, and we do not see a lot of expats there. It's quite a local population of local people who buy there and who invest there. But we do have property investors buying properties there, so I think it will move quickly over there as well. So that was my presentation. I thank you for your attention. Unfortunately, I cannot see you. That's always sad, I think. So I hope I can do another presentation in the future for you when I can see you.